My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we have Holly Taylor, who plays the infamous Angelina on the beloved show Manifest. For its final season, the show picks up 2 years after the brutal murder of Grace turned their lives upside down. The Stone family is in shambles as a devastated Ben continues to mourn his wife and search for his kidnapped daughter, Eden, which I think Holly will probably have a little bit to say about. So to break down Manifest Season 4 Part 1, here's Holly Taylor. How did you get involved with playing Angelina? I've seen you in so many shows and you kind of like hop around, and all of the characters you play are so different. They look different, they sound different, they act. I mean, like, you're just all over the place as an actor, and I find that so amazing. So, what drew you into playing her? And I don't know if you knew where her arc was going, but what drew you into like kind of playing Angelina to begin with?
Right. Well, that's a really interesting interpretation because sometimes I get scared that all of my characters are actually too similar.
Oh,
So that's
really?
like actually really nice to hear. Thank you. I'm gonna journal about this later. No, but I feel like when I first auditioned for Angelina, it sounded very interesting because I'm always drawn to just like, I don't know, kind of like mentally unstable, somber characters. I don't know why that's kind of the most fulfilling for me to play. And it seemed like Angelina, of course, started out in that headspace. You know, she was not being treated right by her family, and she was going through a lot of trauma and turmoil and stuff. So I loved all of that. And then when I auditioned for the role, I actually had to do a scene where, I get in a fight with Ben and I get kicked out of the house. And I thought that was kind of the worst it was going to get. There would be like, she'd come back around. Every character has, conflict and stuff. I thought that would be it. But little did I know it would just literally keep getting worse and worse and worse every day, every episode. And I also was a little hesitant to play Angelina because she is like depressed and religious, and I felt like coming off of The Americans I had just kind of done that. And then I also did another movie where it was similar, thematically. So I was like, I feel like I'm getting put in like this depressed religious girl pigeonhole. So I'm kind of glad that Angelina, took this turn, and really I got to play like something completely different and just be evil, something I never probably would have willingly done. And I was very surprised at how it turned out, but it was very challenging for me.
It's so funny. For The Americans, when you played Paige, I did feel I get what you mean in terms of like the religious aspect,
Right.
but with Becca and the unsettling, I mean, like, I just feel like I don't know, I see differences, like, to me. Like, I
Mhm.
see a lot of differences in between these 3 characters. So, it's funny that you, like, feel like maybe, like, a little pigeonholed, but as an audience and a viewer, I feel the complete opposite. I feel like all 3 look different, sound different, act different, do different things. They're doing things for different reasons. Obviously, they're different characters, but the way that you portray them comes across so differently that I don't even think people know that it's you, like from The Unsettling, or it's you from The Americans, because they look so different.
How do you think when first reading the script how your arc will go? Because obviously it probably wasn't the optimal, like, or did you was like, oh my god, yes, I I'm so hooked for it.
Yeah. I think when I first, I didn't know a ton about the character when I first signed on, like trajectory wise, but I maybe thought that she would have a similar storyline to Adrian or something, where, she is someone who has such a strong faith, and that's what guides her through all these traumatic events in her life. And that's going to be her lifeboat and her calling. And she wants to try and bring people on board with her. Um, I had no idea that she was gonna, kind of go off the walls and need a straight jacket and be a complete lunatic. I even found myself like every script that I got, I was like, okay, this is when the redemption is gonna come. Like this is when she's gonna turn things around. Like this is gonna be the episode. And then like I would get annoyed. So I can't even imagine how it feels like watching as a viewer because and not annoyed at the show or anybody on the show, but just like annoyed because this girl just like needs help and she needs to turn things around and she can't. So I was always very surprised, but I started in this last season, I definitely gave up hope for a redemption arc because I didn't want to keep being disappointed. So I was like, okay, we're just going to go with it. We're going to lean fully into the crazy and the evilness of this all. But I mean, what I also like about playing Angelina is that she's not being evil just for the sake of it. She genuinely thinks that she's doing the right thing, and if she has to hurt some people on the way, it's for a greater good down the line. It's not because she ever has fully malicious intent and wants to hurt people from the get go, you know?
So let's jump into this. I think she's the character that you love to hate, right? In the When we first meet her, you're rooting for her because we feel terrible about what she's been through. And even when she starts getting to a point where she's maybe not making the most rational decisions, when we meet her mother, that all makes sense. Like we're starting to understand her. So like kind of what you're saying, it's very humanizing. A lot of people go, "Oh, she's the best villain ever." I think it's because you're so good on it. I don't think it's necessarily that people just hate her. I think we saw a lot of the surrounding and the reasons for it, which to me makes sense.
I love that they added that in. And, Jeff Rake, our showrunner, has such an amazing vision. Everything is so deeply thought out, and our writers do a great job with so many characters having to flesh out those background stories for each one of them. Can't even imagine how hard that is. But the amount of backstory that I got to play out with Angelina is very gratifying and gives me so much to work with on my side of things. So yeah, to see her parents, I mean, that's like when I meet people in regular life and they like do something a little bit off, I'm like, oof, like I'd like to meet your parents and see where that one came from. It's just like the nature versus nurture aspect of it all. And like you said, it explains so much.
Yeah, and I think it gave a little bit more of a like a heart for her, instead of just being like a cold-blooded, like this person just wants to hate everyone. It gave you a reason and understanding. If you were in a similar situation, you relate to her. Whereas some of the other characters, not so much. We haven't seen like a little bit of a background, so which is why Adrian and other characters, you're just like, what? Like, but at least for her, you can kind of understand it. You can almost understand why she's looking for hope and looking for something bigger than her. Why do you think Angelina connects so much with Cal in particular?
Well, definitely in part 2, we're gonna see a kind of, like, physical, almost scientific reason why her and Cal feel so connected, but I think that also, she met Cal when he was very young, and so kids and younger people, they are more forgiving of others, and they're willing to give people the benefit of the doubt and see the good in them underneath maybe bad actions that they've done, sometimes to a fault. But I think that Cal saw the goodness underneath Angelina despite the mistakes that she was making in the stone home at the time, because a lot of them were mistakes and she wasn't trying to hurt people, but she just was trying to find her way and be understood, and it all came out wrong. And adults can be more jaded and black and white about things and kind of just cut you off, whereas Cal was understanding and knew that there was a good heart underneath all of it. But again, Angelina just kept making mistakes, and those mistakes kept getting worse and worse. So, kind of bit him in the nose a little bit.
So it's good to find out that we will see a little more, I should say, of Angelina and Cal for part 2 to explain why that relationship is so significant and why they kind of are almost like they kind of showed a little bit in the end, but why they're a yin and yang, like a balance between the two.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the perfect way of putting it. And yeah, that's not going to go away in part 2. It's going to become a very important, driver of the rest of the season, which was fun for me because I love working with Ty. He is so much fun. We get along really well, and he's so talented. And it's really like my first time working with someone my own age, which is weird because we're like 4 days apart or something, our birthday. So I was just so excited to work with someone my own age. I don't know, that was really fun. So, yeah, I love Ty, he's great.
Yeah, sure. And also, how was it to play, with the little children? Because obviously, you also had to play with Eden.
Yeah, well, so in season 3, I had baby Eden, and then this season we had little toddler Edens, Brianna and Gianna that I worked with a lot, and I got really close with, and their families. They're so so sweet, And I even have like a little like teddy bear that they got me for Valentine's Day, which was so cute. So I loved working with them. I've my maternal skills have really went up because they were completely non-existent before. So I was so nervous like playing this role because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I love kids and I love babies, but I have no idea what to do with them." So yeah, so I learned so much from being on this show in like a practical life skills way. But working this season with Gianna and Brianna was, really fun, but also hard because I'm having to be like mean and crazy, and they're little kids and they don't know the difference between, fake and real life. So there was some times where I was like, I kind of like if we could do this without them in the room for my coverage. When we turn the cameras around on me, if, they can go back out and play or nap or eat cookies, whatever they want to do. Because like they don't, understand as much as they might say they do, they still didn't really understand that like it was pretend. And I'm not in the business of traumatizing children anytime soon. I wanted to keep that as amicable as possible.
Yeah, we all obviously saw the video which went viral with Josh Dallas holding the dummy. What is it with about you? Did you also have the wonderful opportunity and have fun with it?
Oh yeah, we use that dummy all the time. Her name is Gloria and she's terrifying. She's gloriously terrifying. She wears a wig actually. Yeah, she's a bit of a diva. And it was honestly just really hysterical sometimes, like trying to be serious and angry at that horrifying dummy, which I'm pretty sure was also like a lot of money. And last season we also had like a baby dummy, and it was like very expensive, like fancy baby. So that way, like it's like body movements like looked real when you were like holding it and stuff instead of just a stagnant doll. And same thing with that one, like its whole face was peeling off. It was terrifying and just like crusty, musty, dusty in the wise words of Drake. And so yeah, it was just like trying not to laugh in all of those scenes is challenging.
We need to see a video of that.
Oh, yeah, I think I have one on my Instagram because she just yeah, crusty is the word.
So I want to jump in on the finale. I'm just going to jump forward. So her storyline has drastically, it's been religious based, but it has drastically changed from a woman that really needs help and guidance and someone to look up to someone that really truly believes not only is she connected to Cal, but obviously to Eden. And now in the finale to an even higher power. And she ends with the sapphire, which is like the go-to thing that we were all trying to get. And I thought it was gone, and in that last second she gets it in her hand, and now it's like kind of like melted in her hand, and then you see this destruction, and which is coming out from her anger, and you just see kind of the world kind of falling apart with lava everywhere. So for you, what was that like as an actor to bring that to the screen? And then emotionally, what is she going through in your mind in those moments, in those final moments of the season?
It was really interesting to play, I guess, like the acting of it all because it's so different from where Angelina started. But you also want her to seem like the same person, but now she's driven by a completely different motivation. She has completely different, feelings underlying her actions. And so yeah, it was challenging to play. And also because so much of it is, this sapphire and there's powers that come with it kind of like, and lava and things, you wanted it also still to feel grounded and real because it could start to feel like a bit marvelly in a way. So I didn't want it to feel like, too far-fetched because the show is, based in this mythology and there's all these crazy things happening, but it's rooted in such real, honest, like grounded emotions that I didn't want to let go of either. And I think that for your second question, Angelina, like you said, feeling a lot of anger. And I think, how that drink every time I say manifest, how that manifests into like the world kind of crumbling around you and other people being hurt by it. You see that whole silent scream montage going on. It's like just such a, I guess, like macrocosm of how your emotions actually in your own life affect the world around you and how you perceive it and the people around you. So she's definitely just filled with so much anger and she wants some kind of like revenge, but also is driven by this power that she's never felt like she's had before. She's always been very powerless. And now she actually has something on her side, so she thinks, and especially to be from like a higher power, higher purpose. I mean, that's like, can give you the confidence to do anything, and she really does.
Yeah, and I know people can look at it in a negative context, but for me, I love what you just said because when she's walking and, and there's that silent scream moment, to me that was such a realistic like world moment that all of us can relate to because every one person's decision ripples to other people, right? So on this show, we're seeing it in a visual sense because of the power and the stuff that she has. But in real life, that's could not be more true. It's like one person does something and just can ripple off and ripple off to hundreds of other people. And I feel like the show at its core is humanity, right? So I just feel like in that moment in particular, that was such a great I don't know who decided to shoot it that way, but the way that it was shot and it being silenced, I think was just fantastic. It was very good. And I just relate to it on a human level. And I try to tell people too, like for Angelina, she's not all bad. Like it's just
Right.
given her circumstances and given what she's been through, you have to understand where she's coming from.
Yeah.
And that scene in particular, I love. So I'm so happy that you brought that up because it's such a relatable moment, and I think people might look at it as something negative, but in turn, it's really how much we relate to one another.
And it's like if you can affect that many people, with some kind of like lower negative emotion, you can do it the same way with a positive one. So there's so many lessons to be taken from this show.
And I want to ask you really quickly, what was it like working with the cast? And then also, is there anything you could tease for part 2?
Yeah, so working with the cast is so much fun. I mean, everyone is so nice and professional. It's like just a great time. I'm very lucky to be on this show. Because my character is the, antagonist, I'm often not in the scenes where it's like the whole cast is together. So I definitely was like pretty isolated for a while, scene wise. So anytime that I get to like work with other cast members, I'm just like so excited. And I'm like, I don't know, it feels like a completely different type of work. So I love that. And from the next 10 episodes, I believe it or not, I would just expect it to get even crazier. The next 10 episodes are my favorite that we've done. I'm so excited to see them because I haven't either. And it's just like it's going to be very emotional. Very emotional and scary. I mean, it sounds like I'm just saying buzzwords, but like that's really the truth of it. There's just so much going on. It moves very fast, but no stone is left unturned.
There's a lot of puns in this one, by the way. No stone,
Yeah.
manifest. Everyone just drink while they're listening.
Yeah. I'm trying to get everyone drunk.
That sounds all amazing. How, in 3 words, would you describe your character next season?
Next season, I would say vengeful, complicated, and lonely. Those three things like drive her decision making.
And it's so funny because we keep calling it next season because this show was so full of stuff, even though it's really like part 2. But all of us are like, yeah, it's the next season because there's just so much to like go over and like wrap up and like so much that happened this season. But I want to ask you really quickly, and like I said, you did a fantastic job. I don't think anyone else could have played her. You play her in a way that if this makes sense to you, I understand why she's doing it. I don't agree with what she's doing, but I understand it.
Also just says a lot about you that you like can have compassion for people even if you're not agreeing with them. I think that's something that so many people could use, like more exercise in that department. And I guess maybe that's why it comes across that way because I always like am compassionate towards her and I feel bad for where she's come from and I also don't agree with what she's doing and I'm like, "Come on, like I'm fighting for her to like be better." And I'm like annoyed at her, but at the same time I'm like, "But I understand." So maybe that's why it comes across that way and I appreciate you watching it that way. Thank you so much.
I want to just ask you one final question. Is what would you like to say to the fans?
Well, yeah, there is like I can't even think of the words every time that we talk about this that surmise how I feel for the fans like who it literally have saved the show. It's really all you guys. Like that's it. Everything that came after it and Netflix we're so thankful for giving us a new space to be in. But like Netflix wouldn't have even had the opportunity if it wasn't for the fans pushing so much. So I can't believe it. It kind of like restored my faith in humanity a little bit in a way, just because I didn't think that anyone would really care so much about a show and to see how much it's affected people's lives and they want it, they need it, they love it and are so passionate about it. I like just can't thank everyone enough. I never would have expected any of this to come from this show, from this job. So like it's really kind of turned my life and my perception of things upside down. And yeah, it's all because of the fans, like 100% credit.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to Holly Taylor talk about Manifest Season 4 Part 1. The show is currently available streaming now on Netflix. Part 2 is set to release sometime next year. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.